Hello, 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 and good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining me today. And if you don't know me, I am Dr. Leesha. I am a board certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist, parenting expert, author, and maternal wellness strategist. And so I really focus a lot on helping moms learn how to be happy and healthy because happy, healthy mamas raise happy, healthy kids. And you can be happy and healthy even in the presence of things like depression and anxiety because it's really just about being intentional about taking care of yourself, irrespective of diagnoses. That's what's so important to me. We don't pay enough attention to mamas, I think. We pay a lot more attention to babies, and babies and children are important, but they wouldn't get here without mamas, right? So I have three kiddos. I have two girls. They are 7 and 14. Both seem to be going on 30. And I have a son who is 10, almost 11. So I would love to hear where everybody is from. Like if you can put it in the chat and let me know where you're from, that would be fantastic. Where are you checking in from? How many kids do you have? All that kind of good stuff. So put it in the chat. I don't know if I can see anything popping up. Hold on a second. Let me see. All right. Well, nobody might not be putting anything in, and that's okay. But I, again, am really glad that you're here. So, one of the things, like I said, that's really important to me is taking care of mamas. And as mamas, that means we need to practice good self care. And in 2022, it is super important that we work on that. It's important every year, but let's make 2022 the year, if you haven't committed before, that you commit to it. And it's interesting because I had just read an article earlier today that was actually talking about not just pandemic fatigue, but pandemic despair. And I had written about pandemic fatigue in 2020 and even on into 2021. But especially in 2020, when everything was still new, we were home with our kids, we were working from home, stuck at home, unsure about what was going to happen, trying to figure out how we were going to manage, and we were tired. And everybody was really in the same. But this article was talking about pandemic despair, which is unique for parents of kids who are 5 and under. And it's particularly relevant for this age group for a couple of reasons. Number one, whatever you think about vaccines, this is not what this conversation is really about. But there aren't authorized vaccines for kids 5 and under. So that's not an option at all. And childcare, particularly daycares, preschools, have really been reeling from the pandemic. So what if you have, a staffing shortage just because your childcare center can't hire and retain staff? So that's a huge issue. Or even if you have staff, but then they're out because of a COVID exposure or COVID infection, and they have to shut down the classroom or shut down the daycare. And so if that's the case in your preschool, then that means you are still paying for daycare, but your kids are home with you. You may need to work. And so in 2021 and 2022, employers are much less flexible. So most of us are going into the office if we work outside the home. Most of us are going back into the office, at least in some capacity. So that may mean you don't have anywhere to put your kids, and you may have to pay for additional childcare if you can find it. If you are still able to work from home, we all know it is virtually impossible to work from home with infants and toddlers and work effectively. It just ain't happening. There's not enough iPad devices or anything that will do that. Cameron says, I just had my baby girl 5 weeks ago and never realized, yes, how much I neglected my self care. That, yes, absolutely. Because you put yourself on the back burner. It's so easy to do because you're busy taking care of baby and just trying to hang on by a thread. So I'm so glad you're here, Cameron, so we can really talk about this. But like I said, you're trying to find childcare. That's not happening. You're still paying for daycare. You can't go into work, so you might have to take leave. Or if you are staying home to work, you're not really getting anything done. And it is super distressing and downright despairing. And so that's what this article was talking about, the pandemic despair, specifically for parents and mamas for children 5 and under. So I make that comment about this article because self-care is really important, but I recognize that self-care is part of a continuum of things that really need to happen to support mamas, especially with having affordable and accessible childcare, really having more robust um, maternity leave and parental leave policies. There are a lot of things that I think that we need to do as a country that would really help parents be healthier emotionally, healthier physically, and have the supports and resources that we need to really do that well. So, self care is important. This other stuff really needs to change, but that's outside of our control right now. But I think we should continue to be thoughtful about how do we make progress and change the landscape for parents in a very significant, impactful way. But in the meantime, mamas, we need to take care of ourselves. And so, what I wanted to really talk about today was, what does that look like? What kind of goals should we have in 2022? And we can do this as a vision board. I always think that vision boards are really pretty cool. And the nice thing is you could do it digitally because hello, Pinterest. We have Pinterest and you could pin things on your vision board, or you could actually do the old fashioned way and cut out, magazine pictures. I don't even know if people still really get magazines because you can look at stuff digitally now. But if you do get magazines, you can get magazines and cut them out and put it on a piece of poster board, and you can create a vision board. We're not necessarily going to spend that time doing that here now, but I want to talk about what should be included when we think about self care. All right, so I'm sorry, I don't have headphones in, and I hear talking downstairs from the family. So let me send them a message really quickly to say, hold it down. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can hear them, but I got to get them to hold it down. Excuse me 1 second. That's what being a mama is, right? Okay. So the other thing that I like to say is intentions rather than resolutions, because I think the problem with the language of resolution is it's very goal oriented in the sense of like strict. And if you don't achieve it, then you feel like a failure. So it can be negative in your mindset. So not attaining or not fulfilling your resolutions means you're a failure. And that's not at all what the desire is. So with intentions is, I think, a lot more positively focused and really about taking the steps to make changes. Not attaining those intentions doesn't constitute failure or doesn't mean like, oh, another year that I didn't get it together. But it's just being intentional about being thoughtful for what things that you want to achieve and the steps that you can take to move towards that. So, we're talking about self care intentions in 2022. So, I came up with this concept called Dr. Leesha's radical hierarchy of self care. And I call it radical because I think we have limited this notion of self care to girls' night out, or date nights, or spa days, mani pedis, chocolates and bonbons and such. But really, self-care is so much more than that. It really encompasses how do you make sure that you can give the best of you to the people and things that you love instead of what's left of you. All right, I'm going to say it again because I think it's so good. But self care is built around being able to give things, or the things and the people you love, what's the best of you instead of what's left of you. And so, with that in mind, and I should have, I'll send it in. I can put it in our social media because I created this diagram to go along with it. But it really hinders on this pyramid where you have, your base level and then you have other tiers. And you can't move up the tier if you don't start at the bottom. I'm going to just put it up here so you can see it. This is kind of what it looks like. But like I said, I can share it in social media so that we have it. But the bottom level tier is around basic needs. And so by basic needs, that means sleep, mamas, sleep. And I know sleep is often elusive. It is so hard to get. And if you get it, it's hard to get consistently. But I do think that we should make every effort to consistently try and get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. You won't always get it. I think that that's a tall order. But I think if you make it a goal to do that, so creating a wind down routine so that you can prepare yourself for bedtime. So maybe that is some lavender essential oils. Maybe that's prayer or meditation. Maybe that's listening to soothing sounds like white noise or like ocean sounds. Maybe it's a warm bath. Maybe it's having snuggle time to read with your kiddos and then preparing for bed, but having a routine where you have a set bedtime that allows you to get, if you can, 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Other parts of that are physical and emotional safety. And so you want to be in, if you're in a relationship, you want to be in a relationship where you feel physically safe and emotionally safe, safe enough to be vulnerable, to share your fears and your dreams, and not be worried about something bad happening, being gaslighted or gaslit. I don't know what the past tense word is, but where you can share those things and feel supported, encouraged, validated. That's really important. Oh, Cameron. Okay, I love that. I'm glad that resonates with you. It is important to say because sometimes we forget what self-care really means because, like I said, it is so much more than just trying to make sure you have girls' night out. Even though that is critically important, don't get me wrong, but it's a lot more than that. The other part for basic needs is making time for relaxation and doing nothing, right? Like we get so busy always trying to check off all the boxes on our to-do list and make sure that we are completing things in the planner and we are just scheduled out. But sometimes it really does need to be Netflix and chill, right? Watch, I'm watching what is it? The Sex and the City reboot. I've been watching that. I've been watching Ted Lasso. Now, and sometimes that means I'm not getting stuff that I need to get done, but sometimes I need a break. I need to literally put myself in timeout and take some time not to do the things that I need to, that are on my list because I don't want to get burnt out and overwhelmed and feel despair. So make sure that you make time for rest and relaxation. That is so critical. All right, the next tier, so we have basic needs. Your next tier is meaningful connections because the reality is relationships are so important. And I don't just mean romantic relationships, I'm talking about the relationships you have with your children, the relationships you have with your family, the relationships that you have with a significant other or partner if you have one, the relationships that you have with your coworkers or supervisors. But we are not meant to do life, live life alone in isolation. We've seen the damage of COVID in isolation, leading to loneliness and depression. So we really want to interrupt that with healthy, meaningful relationships. So make that a priority. Make date nights work. One thing that I do with my mommy tribe, I have some girlfriends, and we celebrate birthdays big, which I love. You know, who doesn't want to celebrate birthday with family and with friends, right? So we may, like, we had a nice, yummy birthday cake. That was lots of fun, and had dinner. Or maybe you have a al fresco dining if your birthday's in the summertime. But make sure that you pour into those relationships and connect. So maybe it's connecting with FaceTime. My family is in North Carolina, and so I FaceTime my sister so I can see my niece and nephew. I FaceTime my parents. It could be emails, it could be a phone call, it could be a text, and it could be getting together, but just to be intentional about maintaining those relationships. Now, it also could mean for toxic relationships that really aren't healthy for you, you may need to put some space in those because that's also self care, is having those boundaries, healthy boundaries, because boundaries help you teach people how to treat you so that you can say, you know what, that doesn't work for me. You can't talk to me like that. You deserve to be respected. So that's also important that you minimize or put space with those toxic or unhealthy relationships. All right, the next layer. So we had basic needs, then we had meaningful connections. The next is financial fidelity because money's important. Money may not be everything, but we need money to be able to live and take care of our responsibilities. And so it's important for us to think about financial fidelity. So you need to tell your dollars what to do. You need to give them a job, right? Because we need to monitor our money and make sure our money is working for us the way that we would like it to. And so, a budget, I know the B word's kind of bad, but a budget is important. And so, one of the simplest and I think pretty powerful budgeting rules that I've seen is the 50-30-20 rule. So, 50% is to cover your needs, your expenses like rent or mortgage, paying for groceries, car payment, childcare, other transportation costs, doctor's appointments, medications, things like that. Then 30% is for the things that you want. So when you go out for dinner or when you catch a concert or something cute that you want to wear that, makes you feel good. Because that's the other thing. We had gotten held back on going out and freshening up, makeup, or getting our hair done or whatever. But you need that 30% to go toward the things that you enjoy and that make you feel good. And then 20% should be for saving your money or investing or paying off debts. So I really like that because I think it's a pretty simple way to think about how you budget your money. So that's what financial fidelity is about. It may include reading books or using apps like there's YNAB, You Need a Budget. That's an app. There's Mint. There's a ton of apps that are out there, but that can help you track your money and make sure your money is working for you that the way that you want it to and intend it to. The next layer of that is wellness and wholeness. So it's hard to be well and whole if you don't have a place to live, or if you are really struggling to make ends meet, or you are not in an emotionally or physically safe situation. So each one builds on the other, but this is that fourth pillar, wellness and wholeness. And so by that, I mean things like eat the rainbow. So I like that idea because it encourages us to be really creative and colorful in what we fill our plate with. We know that healthy foods affect our physical health, but they also affect our mental health. There is a growing body of research around this new kind of specialty, so to speak, of psychiatry called nutritional psychiatry, which is looking at what we put in our body, the foods that we put in our body, and how it affects our mood and our overall ability to function. So we know things like the Mediterranean diet that's rich in olive oil, and nuts and legumes and fish is really great in helping to reduce the risk of depression. And it helps with increasing amounts of something called brain derived neurotrophic growth factor, BDNF, and that helps enhance cognition and your learning. Exercise also does that as well. So when you eat the rainbow, you are trying to fill your plate with as many colorful foods as possible. So you can pick reds, so that could be strawberries or tomatoes and oranges. You could have yellow squash and zucchini or cucumbers, blueberries. Um, I miss kale and spinach, but try and fill your plate with an array of fruits and vegetables, and then with lean meats. But every meal and even your snacks, try to incorporate as many colors as possible. You think about berries, the dark blue berries, and they have acanthocyanids in them that are good for antioxidants and for free radical damage, protecting against free radical damage. I mean, be creative, and you can even get your kids involved with picking fruits and vegetables too, if they're old enough. That's a lot of fun, and decorate this beautiful plate. It's also about exercise. Like I said, exercise is something that helps release or increase the production of brain derived neurotrophic growth factor, which is good for enhancing memory and cognition. But it also makes you feel good. It releases endorphins, feel good hormones that are almost like natural antidepressants, if you will. Exercise helps with stress and anxiety. And like I said, it just makes you feel svelte and strong. So the recommendation is 150 minutes a week. So you can break that up if that's 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or 2.5 hour sessions, or 2 1 hour sessions, and then like a 30-minute session, and that's 3 times in the week. But move that body, because you feel better when you move your body. It's also about, I mentioned a little bit before, healthy boundaries, when you can tell people what we're not going to do, because again, boundaries help us teach other people how we like to be treated. And it is not your responsibility to make someone feel okay with the boundaries that you have in place. If it doesn't work for you, you don't have to be apologetic about it. Sometimes as mamas, especially, we tend to overextend ourselves and we say yes to too many things. We let our kids participate in lots of activities, or we want to sign up for all the boards and all the work projects and volunteer for things, and it just gets too much. So, no is a whole sentence. So you can exercise it judiciously or broadly, but say no, because saying no to other things often means that you're saying yes to yourself. It's also healthy coping skills to deal with the stressors of life. So, as I mentioned before, prayer, meditation can be really part of that healthy coping skills. You might need to have a vent buddy that you can go to kind of get stuff out. I also believe in the power of positive affirmations, the things that you intentionally speak over yourself. And you can start your day with saying, I am enough. Today's going to be a good day. I have the tools that I need to be productive. Whatever you need to say to yourself, and do that every morning to set the tone for your day. Or maybe you close out your day with positive affirmations that may sound something like, even if I didn't get everything done on my to do list, I made the day productive, right? Or tomorrow is going to be a new day, and I'm going to make tomorrow even better than today. Journaling is another great coping skill, because sometimes, when you keep these negative thoughts swirling in your head, it can really take a hold of your emotions and kind of create this downward spiral. But the act of simply getting it out on paper can really help you, one, unload some of that negativity, and you can cull kind of your thoughts and emotions and process them sometimes better when you get it out of your head and onto paper. And then lastly, the pillar of the pyramid is the pursuit of purpose. What are you dreaming of? What would you do if you knew you could not fail? What would you do if you weren't afraid? Like, don't ever stop dreaming, because I think that's important, because it does give us a sense of purpose for our lives. Reading books that will help you attain your goals, or that are just allowing you to have other creative ideas. It could be taking a foreign language class because you want to learn French or Spanish. It could be going back to school to finish your high school diploma, or to get your bachelor's degree, or get an associate's degree, or going back to get your doctorate. It is formulating the dreams that you have, not just for yourself, but for your children and for your family. Picking, your next vacation, and then watching your dollars to move towards planning for that and saving for that vacation. But it's important that you identify and boldly pursue your purpose. So those are my self-care tips. I will run through them again and flash back my pyramid. So at the base is basic needs, things like sleep and safety. The next level is meaningful connections. They're healthy relationships that you have with loved ones, friends, family, significant others. The next is financial fidelity, where you're thinking about budget and giving your dollars a job. The next is wellness and wholeness, what you feed your body, what you feed your mind. And then lastly is the pursuit of purpose. So I hope that that was a healthy and reasonable framework for you to use when you think about the things that you should incorporate into self-care. And so if you decide to make your digital or true vision board, you should come up with images that you can put for each of these tiers in the hierarchy, because you are worth it, you deserve it, and frankly, you need it. I need it. We need it, mamas. So putting yourself first allows you to take care of the people and the things that you love. Because as everyone says, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And you also need to watch what you fill your cup with, because if you fill it with anger and bitterness and frustration, when life bumps you around, that's what spills out, is that anger and bitterness, frustration. But if you're filling it with love, compassion, self-compassion, and kindness and patience, then when you get bumped with life, it's easier for those things to come spilling forth. So thank you for tuning in. And please put questions, comments, anything that you have, put it in the chat. Pick my brain. Let me know what you're thinking, how you felt about these self-care tips, but feel free to share. Oh, thank you. I hope I'm saying it right, Chandrea, or Chandra, but thank you. All right, anything else? Because I don't want to hold you too long, because I know we all have kids, and I'm sure that they um, need us in some capacity. I will just put a plug for the next time that I'll be on, which will be in 2 weeks. We're going to do it on Thursdays at 7:30, and so next time I will be talking about how to tell your husband you need help without telling him that you need help. So I hope that you will tune in for that in 2 weeks, because it's just real. It's real life, and sometimes we have to say things a bit creatively to get the point across without stepping on too many toes. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care. Oh, and you can follow me on social media at Dr. Leesha on IG and on Facebook. All right, talk to you soon.